tried to make The Strangers feel as based in reality as possible. It definitely felt like this could happen to me.
Why did it stop?
They're fucking with us.
The audience goes on this journey with the character, and there is real transformation.
There's a mystery baked into it. You know, who are these strangers?
We turn the screws all the time and make it more and more tense.
Let it go now!
This is a really epic journey of survival.
Why are you doing this to us? Because you're here.
A friend of mine happened upon the rights to The Strangers and called me up, and I said, I'm not sure you want to remake a movie like The Strangers, which is so beloved by horror fans and has a real following behind it. And I thought about it, and I said, you know, I think there's a bigger story to be told, but in order to tell it, we have to go back to the beginning.
My good friend Courtney Solomon said, well, do you remember this awesome cult classic horror movie called The Strangers? I said, do I remember The Strangers? I mean, it's one of my favorite horror films ever. And he said, well, they are planning to do a remake of it, and not just a remake, but a trilogy.
Courtney Solomon, my producing partner, really was the point guy for this entire concept and the execution of it. What really excited me was the challenge of doing 3 films at one time. That was really unique and interesting.
Courtney Solomon, Alan Cohen, and Alan Friedland. They started, all 3 of them, brainstorming how faithful do you stay to the first one, but then how do you expand it and still keep audiences in it?
Writing the first movie of the trilogy, everything that you put in that has to have a purpose in the next 2. So we're putting characters in, laying seeds. Is this character one of the masked strangers, or is it just somebody they happen to come in contact with?
There are people that carry across all 3 movies that you get to know. And there are people, even if they're only in one movie, they have a big role within that movie and serve the story for that movie.
Everything that the characters say to each other has some sort of payoff. Even the characters that they're talking to on the phone end up showing up later on.
What bumblefuck town are you guys in now?
Venus, Oregon. We're having a good time.
When I was sent this script for The Strangers, I was so thrilled because it stuck with me. Like Freddie, Jason, those are all incredible films, but I don't really think that could actually happen to me. But The Strangers, it definitely felt like this could really happen.
We wanted to stay true, obviously, to the original. And what was so absolutely disturbing and terrifying about it, and that is that it can happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time.
What I've learned from my experience doing sequels like I did Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and I did Die Hard 2, the term that I like to use is replicating the experience. You owe the audience that experience of the original movie in a sense that that's what they fell in love with. You're giving them the same feeling, but in a new package.
What does Scarecrow have to do to kill him?
What I love about our reinterpretation of the first one is if you look at it, there's still all those little hints that date back to the original, whether it's the iconic truck, whether it's the 2 little boys on the bicycle.
Are you serious?
Aren't we all?
The audience and the fans will definitely recognize all of those Easter eggs, but differently and reimagined.
The first movie is the jumping off point, and you could call it a reboot of the original Strangers. So for those fans who love the original, the first movie is a home invasion movie, and it will remind them of why they loved that movie in the first place.
She was on her way to interview for a top Portland architectural firm when her GPS failed.
She is, however, survived by her boyfriend Ryan.
What? No?
Yeah, sorry, babe. I had to eat your remains.
The story of the first film is about a young couple, Maya and Ryan, who are going out to Oregon.
Maya and Ryan were lifelong New Yorkers, and she wanted to get out of the big city. The ironic, I want to get away from all the crime and violence of New York.
Venus, Oregon, population 468.
Maya is whip smart, and she is on this journey to be interviewed for a new architectural job in Portland. And she's in a really loving and supportive relationship with Ryan, but has got kind of like the world at her feet until she's placed into a circumstance that nobody would ever want to be placed into.
They go into a little diner to have something to eat. When they come back out, the car won't start. They have to stay overnight because he has to get a part to fit the car. There's an Airbnb, and so that's where they end up staying. And then that sets up the terrorizing by the strangers.
Is Tamara here? That was weird.
I think that the goal is the audiences will watch the movie and go, I am riding along with Maya in this movie.
She's very much a glass half full person, and she's the type of person that doesn't ever want to hurt or harm another living being.
Do you hear that?
Hear what?
The silence.
As we go through the trilogy, she's on an arc, on a transformation.
In the beginning of the first movie, you would never believe that this wonderful young woman with a bright, beautiful life ahead of her could be doing in a matter of 2 days.
Some of the coolest things about Maya is very quickly you see how adaptable she is, and you watch this flame kick on inside of her and the survival instinct kick in.
And cut. Very good.
The movie rests on the shoulders of the Maya character. If you didn't have the right person playing that role that actually was willing to go all in all ways, there's no way this would even have a chance to work. So we needed somebody that could pull it off.
I got sent this behemoth of a script, and I thought it was so ballsy that I was like, fuck it, I'm in, let's go, we ball today. So I picked it up, I read it all within like 3 days, and I knew it was for me.
Courtney and I had a lot of these Zoom calls with actors all over the world. And of course, we knew about Mads, we had seen her work and knew her reputation, but still we had no idea if she is exactly the right fit for the role.
I sat with Courtney and Rennie for about an hour and a half, and we talked in detail about who Maya is, what her journey looks like, what I think I could bring to the character. And Rennie and Courtney said, we're looking for our third partner in this. And that allowed me to feel comfortable in sharing my opinions on this thing. And I was like, this is where I think it's really strong. This is where I see Maya going. This is where I feel like some of her reactions to things aren't necessarily authentic to maybe where she would be in the story.
She had this notebook and she actually showed us and flipped through a bunch of the pages. She's like, I made some notes. Had to be like 21 pages of notes, full pages of notes and ideas and thoughts.
I've never been so ballsy in a meeting, being like, I've heard you guys have done a lot of meetings. What didn't go right in those, and what can I do to prove to you that this is mine?
We saw the fire in her eyes, we saw the intelligence, we saw the confidence, we saw the sort of inner softness and sense of humor, and Courtney and I just sort of looked at each other and we were like, oh my God, we have found the girl.
What a cool little town.
The town in our story plays a very integral part to everything. That's the setting of the drama and the characters and the horror. A little town that on the surface seems completely normal, and yet you just get a feeling like you're in the wrong place at the wrong time and it's not gonna end well.
Oh my God, it's their anniversary.
Ours too.
How long have you guys been married?
We're not. We're not married. We've just been dating for 5 years.
When Maya and Ryan arrive in town, they're outsiders. The waitresses in the diner, the people who are dining in may seem very nice, but you can tell there's something a little bit off about them.
5 years, and you ain't put a ring on her finger? The hell are you waiting for?
Well, right now I'm just waiting on my turkey melt.
What I wanted to get into these scripts was, you're in this town, all these people could be the masked strangers. You just don't know who it is.
I'm off in like 10 minutes. I can drive you. I live out that way. That's so kind of you. Thank you. Yeah. Good tippers, good karma, right?
The interesting dilemma really in these movies is, who are the strangers? The natural instinct for the audience is to say that the strangers are the strange people in masks. But then the question is, when you go to somebody's environment, are you the stranger?
Maybe in the end it applies to both. If you're not from this small town, if you haven't lived the traumas that they've lived, they're strangers to each other.
Here's some big corporate finance guy. Passed through. Ate here, actually, and then totally disappeared.
Hope he didn't have the turkey melt.
He did.
It's a small town that used to thrive. They had, a factory. And when that goes away, the income stream goes away. And there's a resentment towards people coming off the highway in a $70,000 BMW SUV. Even though people don't mean anything by it, there's just this sort of stark reminder of somewhere out there are forces that took away what we had.
It's like a lot of American small towns where it just kind of exists in this world that might feel very unfamiliar to someone like Ryan, who very much grew up in a massive city. He's a New Yorker through and through.
No, this is a scam. I saw you watching us.
Will you excuse us for 1 second, please? Ryan, what's wrong with you? These people aren't scamming us.
You just think this is a coincidence.
I think Maya might be the optimist to Ryan's pessimist. He assumes the worst and she assumes the best, but he knows that something is off. And he can kind of smell that in a way that Maya isn't able to at the very beginning.
Please, stop being paranoid.
Please stop being naive.
You know what, Rudy? That sounds great. We appreciate it. Thanks.
The most important thing between Maya and Ryan was that their love was really obvious kind of from the jump.
What are you thinking?
I am thinking about how that greasy motherfucker Rudy better have my car in by tomorrow.
Wow, I am so turned on right now.
Oh, yeah?
There's like this really beautiful vulnerability that both Maya and Ryan have with each other. And I think that's what makes you want to root for them and what makes the whole thing so much more tragic and horrifying.
We need to move.
Ryan and Maya really lean on each other, and I think that has mirrored my dynamic with Mads throughout the shoot. I think it kind of shows through in the performances.
Then we fall on our asses, and then...
I'll be freaked out. I won't have to. And kicks, right?
Mads and I are finding the character and finding the dynamic of the relationship.
I think I know the state motto now. It's better in Oregon.
The scene on the couch is pre the strangers showing up, and you really get a taste of their dynamic. I remember sitting there with Froy and we were working on the dialogue, and it just felt so natural.
For the first time on this, it's so strange.
Oh, really? Is it strange?
Isn't it strange?
Maya is a very strong-willed character right from the beginning, as is the person that plays Maya. Froy brings like this nice energy in a good way and always smiling. And that's the dynamic we wanted because we didn't want that friction, butting heads in any way, shape, or form. So you understood why they worked as a couple in the first place.
You were trying to protect us. You were trying to protect us, okay?
They get to a certain point where things get really, really bad. There's a conversation between them at that point that one would think under the circumstances would almost be impossible to pull off, and yet they did it seamlessly.
Marry me. Will you marry me?
Yes, of course.
You see the sacrifices they're willing to make, and I think that just shows how much they love each other.
Okay, and 3, 2, 1, action.
I love stunts. In fact, the stunt coordinator and I had many a conversation about how I wanted to do every single stunt that was in this film. There are times where it's safer, absolutely, to have a stunt double come in and do things. But when it's possible, having me come in and do it, which was more challenging than I thought it would be, but I'm so controlling of my performance, and I don't want to hand that over to anybody.
I would be like this on the ground if you're holding me by my clothing. You know what I mean?
She has an incredible dedication and a real sense of detail, but there was nothing easy about making this movie. It was in the woods, it was in the cold, it was nasty. She was as good as I've ever worked with.
We understood and we communicated this was an extremely demanding role, not only emotionally, but physically. Her passion, not only her talent, but also I think her experience with stunts and physicality showed that she could do it all.
Walking onto a Rennie Harlan set and doing stunts is so intimidating. I'm such a big fan. Cliffhanger is such an iconic film with so many massive stunts, and I'd heard that a lot of the actors had done them themselves in that, and I was determined to make Rennie proud. The first time I did a stunt for Rennie, I'll never forget, he said, okay, we can move on after one take, and I looked at Courtney and I was like, I think I just made it.
Perfect.
Yeah, I love when Rennie's happy.
I can't take it.
Stupid. baby on the treetop.
It was always intended to be character-driven horror. You know, a lot of horror movies, it's a fun romp, right? Freddy, Jason, fun romps. But the real horror, to me, was everybody perceives a home invasion as something that they could potentially experience. And I think that's what differentiates it. I always said, we're gonna pick this line of reality, and we must always stay there.
We want the audience to feel like they want to tell the characters, get out of there, but not go so far that they feel like the characters are stupid for not getting out of there.
We really tried to make this feel as based in reality as possible within the heightened reality circumstances that we created.
In this trilogy, you follow one character all the time from the beginning to the end, but at the same time, every movie forms its own journey.
The movies are made to each have their own cliffhanger.
You can be satisfied by movie 1, but you'll want to come back for movies 2 and 3 to learn more.
We hope that people are gonna have like a fun conversation. Well, what's gonna happen? Where's this gonna go? The audience will be thrilled and people have a good time.